Okay, so picture this, right? It's 1942.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. is suddenly in a two-front war,
Yeah.
and they realize they're like way behind in the whole spy game.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So enter like William Wilde, Bill Donovan.
Right.
This guy's like straight out of a Hollywood movie.
Oh, yeah.
And he's tasked with building the OSS, right?
Yeah.
From scratch.
Yeah.
America's first like real spy agency.
I know. It's amazing.
Our deep dive today is all about those early days of the OSS.
Okay.
The surprising things they got up to.
Yeah.
We've got a fascinating episode of the American History Hit podcast
No, cool.
featuring historian John Lyle.
Oh, yeah, I know John.
He literally wrote the book on this. It's called The Dirty Tricks Department.
It's a great book.
Amazing.
It's incredible how quickly things change. Before Pearl Harbor, the U.S. was like pretty much against the whole idea of spying, you know?
Really?
Gentlemen don't read each other's mail.
Yeah.
That sums up the attitude back then.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to imagine now,
I
right?
know, right?
So Donovan gets the green light.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you even begin? Like, to build a spy agency?
I know, right? Where do you start?
Down to nothing.
Donovan was like a one-man recruiting machine, you know?
Wow.
Traveling the world, gathering intel.
Wow.
But he needed someone
Yeah.
to handle like the science side of things,
Okay.
the gadgets and tricks of the trade.
Okay.
That's where Stanley Lovell comes in.
Okay.
A chemist who, get this, was working on making better shoe soles before the war.
Shoe soles.
I know.
What?
That's not exactly the resume you'd expect for like a master spy.
Right.
What was Donovan thinking?
Yeah. Seriously, what was he thinking?
I think Donovan saw something in Lovell.
Yeah.
Maybe his ingenuity or like his ability to think outside the box.
I see.
You know?
Yeah.
Their first meeting is legendary.
Oh, really?
Imagine this, right?
Okay.
You get a mysterious summons, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're led to an empty room.
And suddenly,
Yeah.
there's Donovan, larger than life,
Wow.
asking you to be his Professor Moriarty.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I know.
Okay, I'm getting chills.
Yeah.
Just picturing that. That's so cool.
Right.
So Lavelle signs up,
Yeah.
but you've got like scientists and businessmen who've
Yeah.
never worked together, right?
Right.
And they need to figure out how to mass produce
Right.
spy gear.
Yeah.
Where did they even begin?
Well, they set up shop at Area F,
Okay.
which was actually like the Congressional Country Club in Maryland.
Really?
So golf courses became firing ranges,
What?
sand traps became mortar targets.
Seriously?
It was like a spy boot camp,
Wow.
hidden in plain sight.
Okay, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to explain that to the country club members.
I know, right?
But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you need somewhere to train these new recruits, right?
Exactly.
So what kind of training did they actually go through? It wasn't just about, like, physical skills.
Okay.
They needed to be quick on their feet,
Mhm.
resourceful,
Yeah,
and able to think outside the box.
I see.
There's a story about a trainee
But,
named Roger Hall.
Yeah.
For his final test,
yeah.
he had to, like, infiltrate a defense plant, charm the vice president,
Okay.
deliver a war bond speech,
Oh my gosh.
and he almost got engaged in the process.
Wait, he almost got engaged.
Yeah.
During a spy mission.
Oh, I know, right?
Talk about dedication.
Right.
That really shows you the kind of people they were recruiting.
Exactly.
I
They weren't looking for like your typical soldier.
Right.
They needed people who could blend in, improvise,
Yeah.
and charm their way into any situation.
Oh, I see.
And of course, you can't forget about the gadgets.
This is where it gets really interesting, right?
Crazy.
Gadgets and disguises.
Yeah.
The stuff of spy movies.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of things did Lavelle and his team come up with?
They invented some pretty ingenious things,
Like what?
like the time pencil.
A time pencil.
I know.
A device that allowed for delayed detonations.
Oh,
I know.
That's so cool.
This gave agents, time to create an alibi,
Oh, I see.
making it look like they were somewhere else entirely
Wow.
when the sabotage happened.
Whoever?
And then there were like the limpet mines.
Limpet mines. Okay.
Pictured these small explosives
Okay.
designed to like stick to the hulls of enemy ships.
So I'm guessing, like
Yeah.
named after those little shellfish
Exactly.
that cling to rocks.
Yeah.
Pretty clever analogy.
I know, right?
But what about disguises? Anything like those fake mustaches and glasses you see in the movies?
Some of their disguises were surprisingly simple but effective.
okay. Yeah.
They used charcoal to make wrinkles look deeper,
Okay.
whiteout, to create like the appearance of gray hair
Oh, wow.
and even stuffed shoes. Stuffed shoes.
Yeah,
Oh.
to make an agent look taller
Oh, okay.
or to give them a limp.
That's so smart.
I know.
Wow.
So basically they were using like everyday items as
Huh.
spy tools.
That's pretty cool.
It is, isn't it?
What about
Yeah.
secret messages?
Oh, yeah.
Did they use invisible ink and all that?
They had even more creative methods.
Really?
Messages were hidden like in hollowed out pencils,
Wow.
tucked inside lipstick tubes,
What?
and even disguised as like regular letters.
That's crazy.
They really pushed the boundaries of what was possible.
Wow. So, okay.
Mm.
This is all pretty standard spy stuff, right?
Yeah.
I have a feeling things are about to take a turn for the more unconventional.
Oh, yeah.
What can you tell us about something called Operation Fantasia?
Operation Fantasia
Okay.
was the brainchild of Ed Salinger,
Okay.
a businessman who knew like Japanese culture inside and out.
Right.
His idea was to exploit
Oh,
Japanese belief in kitsune.
Kitsune.
Yes.
Okay.
These spirit foxes that are seen as like bad omens in their folklore.
Spirit foxes, huh?
I know.
Sounds like we're venturing into the supernatural.
A little bit.
What were they planning?
Uh-huh.
To unleash actual spirit foxes
Yeah.
to like terrorize the Japanese.
Not quite.
Oh.
Their first attempts involved creating like fake kitsune
Okay.
using balloons and whistles.
Balloons and whistles.
Yes.
Okay.
But then they took things a step further.
Oh.
They captured live foxes,
Okay.
painted them with radioactive paint.
Radioactive paint.
Yes.
Wow.
To make them glow in the dark.
Oh,
and
yeah.
plan to release them in Japan.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
Glowing radioactive foxes.
No.
That sounds a bit extreme even for a wartime operation.
A little bit.
Did this actually work?
Well, there were a few hiccups along the way.
Like what?
During one test,
Yeah.
they threw the painted foxes overboard
Okay.
in the Chesapeake Bay
Mm-hmm.
to see if they could swim. They did swim to shore,
Okay.
but the paint washed off,
Really?
leaving them looking like ordinary foxes.
Oh, so much for that then.
I know.
Okay, so maybe the glowing foxes weren't the best idea.
Maybe not.
What about the infamous bat bombs?
Yes.
I've heard whispers about those, but never the full story.
The idea behind the Bat Bomb project was actually quite clever.
Really?
Bats, with their ability to like navigate in the dark
Yep.
and find warm places to roost, were
Should-
seen as potential guided missiles.
Wow.
They wanted to attach like tiny incendiary devices to them,
Okay.
release them over Japanese cities, and let
Yeah.
them fly into buildings,
Wow.
starting fires everywhere.
So bats as tiny bombers.
Pretty much.
That's
Yeah.
creative, I guess.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine the logistical nightmare
Oh,
of trying to control
yeah.
like thousands of bats.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
They faced all sorts of challenges,
Like what?
from bats hibernating mid-flight.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
To accidental explosions during testing.
Really?
In one incident,
Okay.
a bunch of bats woke up prematurely
Oh, no.
and blew up a control tower in a military barracks.
Oh, my gosh.
I know.
Okay, that settles it.
Yeah.
Bats are officially terrifying,
Yeah.
even without the bombs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what eventually happened to this bat bomb project?
By the time the bat bombs were ready for deployment,
Okay.
the U.S. had developed the atomic bomb,
Right.
which pretty much rendered the whole project obsolete.
Oh, wow. So the atomic bomb kind of overshadowed these more unconventional weapons?
Yeah.
What about the OSS itself?
Yeah.
What happened to it after the war ended?
The OSS was disbanded shortly after the war.
Really?
There was a sense that with peacetime,
Yeah.
such a large spy agency wasn't needed anymore,
Okay.
but its legacy lived on.
How so?
Many of its people and ideas
Okay.
were incorporated into the newly formed Central Intelligence Agency,
Okay.
or the CIA.
Right. In 1947.
So the CIA was,
Yeah.
in a way, born from the OSS.
Yeah, you could say that.
But I have a feeling the OSS's influence went beyond just like organizational structure.
Right.
Did their wartime research have any impact on later CIA activities?
That's a great question.
Particularly the more controversial ones.
Right, like MKUltra,
Right.
the infamous mind control project.
Yeah.
For example, both Stanley Lovell,
Right.
the OSS's Professor Moriarty,
Yeah.
and Sidney Gottlieb,
Mm-hmm.
the chemist who headed MKUltra, were exploring
Okay.
the potential of truth drugs, and mind-altering substances.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you saying there might be a direct link
Potential.
between the OSS's experiments during the war
Mhm.
and MKUltra?
It's possible.
That's a pretty big deal,
It is.
if true.
Yeah,
I
it
feel-
definitely raises some important questions.
Yeah.
And as you'll hear in the next part of our deep dive, the connections between Lavelle and Gottlieb
Okay.
go even deeper than you might think.
Ooh, okay, I can't wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating to think about, right?
Yeah.
That both Lavelle and Gottlieb,
Yeah.
like, they both came from a background in chemistry
Yeah.
and were drawn to this world of espionage,
Yeah.
intrigued by,
Yeah.
the potential of using science for these kinds of covert operations.
It wasn't just a coincidence then
I don't think so.
that they both ended up
Yeah.
researching similar things.
Right. It seems like there's a real connection,
Yeah.
like both intellectually and ethically,
Yeah.
between what the OSS was doing and the later MKUltra project.
Exactly, yeah. And Lyle kind of hints at this in the podcast,
Yeah.
mentioning that he actually found evidence of a direct link
Oh, wow.
between Lovell and Gottlieb
Really?
while doing research at the Library of Congress.
Okay.
Ooh, a historical mystery.
Right.
What did he find?
He was looking through Sidney Gottlieb's deposition
Okay.
for a lawsuit related to MKUltra
Right.
and stumbled across Lovell's name.
Okay, so that confirms they
Yeah.
knew each other.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah.
what were they discussing?
Right.
Was Lovell involved in MKUltra?
Yeah.
Did he advise Gottlieb in some way?
Well, Lyle actually keeps that detail a secret.
Seriously.
Oh, come on.
He encourages listeners to read his book for the full story.
Oh, that's such a tease.
I know, right?
But I have to admit,
Yeah.
it's a brilliant way to, like,
Hmm,
pique people's interest in his research.
exactly.
Okay, but let's zoom out for a second.
Okay.
We've been talking about the OSS, MKUltra,
Mhm.
all this, like, cloak and dagger stuff,
Yeah.
but what does it all,
Right.
what kind of lasting impact did this era have
Yeah.
on, like, American intelligence and
Yeah.
the world we live in today?
It's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think about the bigger picture here.
Okay.
The OSS and what it became.
Represents a major turning point
Okay.
in American history.
How so?
The U.S. went from being, like, a nation that largely avoided espionage
Right.
to becoming a global superpower
Yeah.
with a vast intelligence network.
And not always with positive results.
Right.
Right.
No, definitely not.
Like MKUltra,
Yeah,
that was a pretty dark chapter in American history.
absolutely. Ethical lines definitely got blurred.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like, completely crossed the
Mhm.
desire for national security,
Yeah.
especially during the Cold War,
Mm-hmm.
led to some very questionable actions.
Yeah. It's a bit like a Faustian bargain,
Right.
Gaining knowledge and power.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
Exactly.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
I'm dying to know more about those truth drugs
Oh, yeah.
that both Lovell and Gottlieb were interested in.
Mm.
Did they actually find any that worked?
Well, the idea of a truth serum, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a myth.
Okay.
There's no magic potion that forces someone to,
Yeah.
reveal all their secrets.
Right.
But during World War II,
Okay.
the OSS did experiment with, like, different drugs.
Oh, really? Like what?
Like scopolamine
Okay.
and sodium pentothal,
Right.
hoping to find something that would make people more talkative.
So they were basically trying to turn everyone into
Yeah.
like a real life chatterbox.
You could say that. They
Oh.
even tried marijuana.
Marijuana.
Yeah. Really?
Believing it could make people more suggestible.
That one's surprising. I wouldn't picture a bunch
Uh,
of spies just like
Yeah.
sitting around getting high.
Yeah.
But I guess they were willing to try anything. So did any of these experiments actually lead to any breakthroughs?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
The results were mostly inconclusive.
Okay.
People would become more talkative.
Yeah.
But the information they shared
Hmm.
was often unreliable.
Okay.
A mix of truth and fantasy.
Ah.
So no magic bullet for truth telling then.
Not really, no.
What about other like
Hmm.
unconventional weapons or tactics?
Oh, yeah.
Did the OSS explore anything else?
Yeah.
That might surprise us.
Oh, they had plenty of tricks up their sleeves.
Okay, look what.
One particularly bizarre idea
Okay.
involved using exploding rats.
Exploding rats. Seriously.
It sounds crazy, right?
That sounds like something out of like a bad spy movie.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it reflects the kind of, like,
Right.
outside the box thinking
Right.
that was encouraged within the OSS.
Ugh.
They were open to, like, almost any idea, you know?
Yeah.
No matter how strange,
Yeah.
if they thought it could give them an advantage.
Okay, but wouldn't the Germans notice?
Yeah.
You know, like, a bunch of dead rats just lying around.
The idea was to plant them
Okay.
in strategic locations,
Okay.
like near boilers or other important equipment
Yeah.
where they wouldn't seem out of place.
Okay. I can see the logic there. But, like, did they ever actually use these exploding rats?
It's not clear
Okay.
if they ever saw action.
Okay.
The story goes
Yeah.
that the Germans actually discovered the plan
Oh, no.
and captured a shipment of the explosive rats.
Oh, that's hilarious.
All right. Turning the tables on the OSS.
Yeah.
I know.
I can only imagine the look on the faces
Right.
of those German soldiers when they
Yeah.
found those booby-trapped rodents.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, like,
Yeah.
this whole story,
Mm-hmm.
it makes you think about, like, the nature of espionage
Yeah.
and the ethical limits
Exactly.
of wartime research.
It raises important questions
Yeah.
about the long-term consequences
Yeah.
of developing unconventional weapons.
Yeah.
Even if some of these ideas,
Yeah.
never went beyond testing, the
Yeah.
fact that they were even conceived and explored, right,
Yeah.
says a lot about the mindset of the people involved.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
It is.
Once you start down that path
Yeah.
of developing,
Mm-hmm.
like, more and more
Right.
outlandish and potentially inhumane weapons,
Exactly.
where do you draw the line?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a question that continues to be relevant today as
Yeah.
new technologies emerge
Oh,
with
yeah.
even greater potential for,
Yeah.
both good and evil.
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
But we're on a deep dive
Yeah.
into the history of espionage,
Mm-hmm.
and there's still so much to explore.
I know.
What else can you tell us about the OSS and their
Ah.
wild schemes?
They also explored the world of biological warfare,
Biological warfare. Wow.
looking into the potential of using, like, anthrax Yeah.
Wow.
and other deadly pathogens
Okay.
as weapons.
Wow. Yeah.
There was even a meeting at the National Academy of Sciences
Right,
where
so-
Lovell himself discussed these ideas.
Now we're getting into some
Yeah.
really unsettling territory.
Yeah.
Biological weapons,
Yeah.
a whole different level of terrifying.
Right.
But didn't you mention earlier
Oh, yeah.
that Lyle stumbled across
Yes.
some unexpected evidence
Yeah.
while researching his book?
Yeah.
Did that have anything to do with biological warfare?
You have a good memory.
I try.
Yes. While Lyle was looking through archival documents
Okay.
at the National Academy of Sciences, he found the minutes of that meeting
Really?
where Lovell discussed biological weapons.
Wow, that's what I call a historical jackpot.
I know, right?
Like, it's amazing how these
Yeah.
historical puzzles
Yeah.
sometimes come together
I
in the
know.
most unexpected ways,
Yeah, it was a lucky break for him
right?
as it provided, like, direct evidence
Yeah.
of the OSS's interest in this dangerous field.
So what does this tell us about the OSS? Like, were they seriously considering using biological weapons?
It's hard to say for sure,
Okay.
but it's clear that they were at least exploring the possibility.
Well, this raises, like, even more ethical questions
Yeah.
about their activities.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is.
That these seemingly crazy ideas
I know.
were actually being discussed and debated, right?
Yeah.
By scientists and government officials.
I mean,
It makes you wonder what other secrets might still be hidden
right.
in the archives.
And that's what's so exciting about history.
Man.
There are always more mysteries to unravel,
Yeah.
more connections to make,
Yeah.
more insights to be gained.
Okay, I'm officially hooked.
Yeah,
This whole deep dive
I know, it's fascinating.
has been a roller coaster
Yeah.
of intrigue and amazement.
I know.
But we're running out of time for this
Oh,
segment.
Okay.
Don't worry, though, there's still more to come.
Ah!
Stay tuned for the thrilling conclusion
Okay.
of our exploration into the OSS and the birth of espionage.
Wow. So we've been, like, really diving deep into this world of the OSS.
Yeah.
America's first real spy agency.
Yeah.
And it's been, like, a wild ride so far.
It has.
You know, John Lyle's research has
Yeah.
really opened our eyes to just how far
Yeah.
they were willing to go, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the midst of World War II, it makes you wonder, like, what kind of long-term impact
Right.
did these wartime experiments
Yeah.
and the thinking behind them
Mm-hmm.
have on espionage even decades later?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Lyle's upcoming book on Ampultra promises even more insight into that dark chapter of American history.
I know, I'm already adding that book to my reading list.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, before we wrap things up, I have one more, like, burning question.
Okay.
You've told me a lot about
Mm-hmm.
OSS's more,
Yeah,
shall we say, unconventional projects.
right.
Exploding bats, radioactive foxes, truth serums.
Right, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. But what about their more practical contributions to the war effort?
Yeah,
Like, did they have any real successes?
absolutely.
Okay.
While some of their projects might seem crazy looking back,
Yeah.
the OSS played a crucial role in the Allied victory.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
Their intelligence gathering operations
Yeah.
provided vital information that
Yeah.
helped shape military strategy.
Okay.
And they were also instrumental in, supporting resistance movements
Okay.
behind enemy lines,
Right.
providing them with weapons,
Okay.
training, and
Yeah.
communication networks.
So they weren't all about
Not,
crazy gadgets and wacky schemes.
not all about that.
They actually did some good old-fashioned spy work, too.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So, for example,
Yeah.
their agents operating in France,
Mm-hmm.
they were vital in preparing for the D-Day invasion.
Absolutely.
How so?
They gathered intelligence on German defenses,
Okay.
helped organize resistance networks,
Mhm.
and even sabotaged key infrastructure
Wow.
to disrupt the enemy's response.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they were really effective.
Sounds like they were the real deal,
Yeah.
even with their occasional forays into
No,
the more bizarre side of things.
exactly.
But you mentioned earlier that the OSS
Mm-hmm.
was disbanded after the war.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Like, if they were so successful,
Yeah.
why not keep them around?
There were a few reasons.
Okay.
First, with the war over,
Yeah.
there was a feeling that, such a large intelligence agency
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessary anymore.
Okay, I see.
There were also, concerns about the OSS's power
Okay.
and whether it might,
Yeah.
overstep its bounds, particularly in domestic affairs.
Mhm.
And, let's not forget the
Yeah.
rivalries between different agencies that
Right.
had always been there.
Right. Like,
The FBI,
yeah.
the military intelligence branches, they
Mhm.
all wanted a piece of the intelligence pie.
So it was a combination of, like,
Yeah.
political maneuvering,
Mm-hmm.
bureaucratic infighting,
Yeah.
and a changing global landscape
Exactly.
that led to the OSS being shut down.
Yeah, you could say that.
But as we discussed earlier,
Yeah.
their legacy lived on in the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the CIA learned anything
That's a good question.
from the OSS's successes and failures?
It's hard to say for sure,
Okay.
but there are some clear similarities between the two.
Like what?
The CIA inherited many of the functions of the OSS
Okay.
and even absorbed some of its personnel,
Oh, yeah.
but they also faced many of the same challenges.
Like what?
Balancing, secrecy with accountability,
Right.
navigating the complex world of international relations.
It really is amazing to think about
Yeah.
how the seeds of modern espionage
Mm-hmm.
were sown during World War II.
Yeah.
And thanks to historians like John Lyle,
Yeah.
we can piece together this
Mhm.
complex and often contradictory history,
Absolutely.
separating fact from fiction and getting closer to the truth in the myths.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for us today?
Right.
What can we learn from the OSS
Hmm.
and the birth of espionage?
I think the key takeaway here is
Yeah.
that power,
Yeah.
especially the kind wielded by intelligence agencies,
Mhm.
must always be
Yeah.
carefully examined
Okay.
and kept in check.
Right.
The OSS, for all its accomplishments,
Yeah.
also made some serious mistakes.
Right.
And it's vital that we learn from those mistakes
Yeah.
to prevent history from repeating itself.
This deep dive has certainly left me with a lot to think about.
Me too.
From exploding bats
Yeah.
to radioactive foxes,
Right.
it's clear that the truth can be stranger than fiction.
Absolutely.
What other secrets from this era
Right.
might still be hidden away,
Yeah.
waiting to be discovered?
That's a question worth pondering.
It is.
Perhaps there are still classified files out there
Right.
waiting to be declassified.
Yeah.
Or personal diaries and letters. Mm-hmm.
That could shed new light on this fascinating period.
Right.
The search for historical truth
Yeah.
is a never-ending journey.
Well, you've given us a lot to ponder.
Glad to hear it.
Maybe it's best we leave the exploding bats
Yeah.
to the history books. But who knows what other secrets are waiting to be uncovered.
Right.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It was my pleasure.
And be sure to check out John Lyle's work.
Yeah, great book.
If you want to learn even more about the OSS and the fascinating world of espionage.
It's a wild world.
It is.